Okay.
Fingers crossed we get there. No, I checked out your stuff, especially the new album, and it's really nice. The Plasticine Heart video, of course, is quite striking with all those kind of bright colours and all that kind of stuff, and a nice kind of narrative to it as well. You know, it's really nice. A good song too.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's the title track from the album, but luckily enough, a while back I came across this super talented young guy from Russia, Gosha Loshak, and he lives about 12 hours from Moscow. So but he spent almost, I think, a year putting this one together, so that was quite amazing to get it in the end. It was, because you know yourself, like in music, if you try to do anything animation-wise, it takes forever. And it's kind of... get it right. So yeah, like I was delighted, like it came together, and it's the first time I've ever had anything like that. So it was, and I thought it went with the actual song quite well narratively. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. But yeah, animations take a long time.
It's definitely a labour of love, eh?
For sure. Oh, he's hugely kind of passionate about what he does, which, I mean, as you know yourself as a musician, is like kind of just working with people who are super passionate about what they're doing is exactly what you're looking for, you know.
I was going to ask you about like all the colours and all that kind of stuff. I mean, was there a reason for that? I've never really seen a video like that, colour-wise, or the way, you know, just the way it looks, the kind of the impression that it leaves.
Yeah, well, like I mean, to be honest, that's kind of his style. Like basically, if you look at any of his other work, or even artwork, he does kind of normal paintings, things like that. It's very, very colourful, and I guess it fits in with the song as well, because like you probably have the same name for it in Scotland. I'm assuming, but Plasticine is kind
Plasticine,
of, you know, played
right.
kind of, yeah, exactly, and so it's kind of like a childish kind of connotation anyway, I guess. So yeah, like I think it's visually striking, so that's always a positive, I think, you know.
Definitely. I mean, as I said, it reminded me of, I was watching it this afternoon again, and it reminded me of like Starburst, or I guess when I was a kid it was called Opal Fruits, but right, you know, that kind of bright, vibrant colours, and I mean that in a really good way. I mean, I was like, wow, this is awesome, you know, it's kind of a nice
colours.
little twist at the end. Eh? You know, I don't know why, I guess I'm weird, but I don't know.
No, well, I mean, that's the thing about it, because funnily enough, the other video that we did from a song from the album was extremely dark, kind of with a little monster running around a forest at night time. So I think it was an extreme kind of counterbalance to that video, you know.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about the videos in a bit. How about we start? You tell us I don't know if you like the word expat. Some people do, some people don't, but I kind of just label it as your kind of expat journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, kind of like many Irish people, especially musicians, I kind of, as soon as I had the opportunity, I got out of Ireland for a while, and I ended up moving over to the US. So for most of my 20s, I had a band from Limerick City in Ireland. That's where I went to. I'm originally from the northwest coast of Ireland, but I went to university in Limerick City. And I had a band there called Senakah, and we started doing reasonably well. And as it turned out, then we got a deal over in the US, and so we ended up relocating over there. And so I lived in Denver for about 4 years. And so with that band, we were gigging full time across the US. Like one tour, I think we did 6.5 months, 98 gigs or something like that. So we were playing like 6-7 nights a week, and just driving from city to city and playing. It was rough touring, but it makes a musician out of you.
Definitely. I was going to say, I mean, when you're aspiring to be a musician, or you're sitting with your pals in your bedroom as a teenager and all that, you talk about these things, getting a van and hitting the road. We've all been there, or we've all kind of seen it in the movies, and then when you're actually doing it, it loses a certain kind of romanticism, because reality probably kicks in.
Yeah, well, it's not this kind of glamorous view of touring America or whatever, but to be honest, obviously it was the time of my life, you know. It was really, really great, and like as I said, it makes a band out of you. Like, we were playing 5-6 nights a week and sleeping on floors and couches and all sorts of things. But I remember being quite proud, because at the end of like that really long we did like 4 or 5 tours, I think, but like one of them was really long. It was like close to 7 months, and the last gig was this thing this festival we played in Wisconsin, and we played for something like 4.5 hours straight and didn't repeat a song, and it was all original material. So it was kind of like, by that stage we were kind of, you know yourself, it's like getting up and just like brushing your teeth. It was just, you're used to playing all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's the best thing for any band, I mean, to get you tight or whatever. And so obviously then when we came back to Ireland, we were kind of raring to go as well. But yeah, and so basically, to make a long story even longer, it was kind of, in America for 5 years, and then moved back to Ireland and lived in Dublin for 3 years, and then made the decision to move over to Berlin here about 6 years ago. My partner, she's from Bavaria, and so that kind of helped the decision. But I loved Berlin anyway, and so it was a move that I wanted to make, you know. So that, I've been an expat in a few places.
And musically, how did it all start for you? Was there a lot of music in your family, or when you were growing up around the house and all that kind of stuff? Not really. Funnily enough, it's kind of, I've a few cousins, kind of my generation of the family, and like there's a lot of musicians there, but on my parents' generation, it was just kind of something that never really had too much of an opportunity for, like, and so I know I had a few uncles who were kind of played the flute and the fiddle, things like this, and traditional Irish music, but my parents, neither of them really played music, but they didn't really have the opportunity, I suppose. But then you have myself and my cousin David, who's a very, very good Americana folk musician in Ireland, and Grania is like a cellist in the National Orchestra, and then like another one who's a kind of a film composer over in California. And so it's kind of, for some reason, our generation kind of caught the musical bug. But growing up myself at home, I didn't have too much of a surrounding of live music. At least my father is an enormous jazz fan, so that was always on in the background when I was kind of growing up. But jazz wasn't really the musical bug which caught me, I'm afraid. No, either does it doesn't. I find it's a bit Marmite, yeah.
Well, it depends. Yeah, I mean, I love kind of old time jazz, kind of like swing jazz and all that kind of. But like, he would like the more acid end of the scale when it comes to jazz. So it's kind of it's a bit more like mathematical for me. Than,
maybe, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I come from the more emotional end of music than the kind of the technical side of it, I'd say.
Right. I mean, that's the joy of jazz. I guess there's so many different forms of it that you can maybe find something that you like in there. Eh?
Well, this is actually funny story, because I remember when I was with the band and we used to play, we spent a bit of time in Chicago, and I remember we were staying in this, there was a friend of ours who owned an Irish pub out on the outskirts of Chicago, and just there's this massive building just down the road. And when we were staying there happened to be this big party thing going on, and so we just wandered in. It was like The Shining or something. It was like every single person in there was like in 1920s gear and everything, but they had this swing jazz band that was like the real thing, you know. Like, you know, in America it's just this super hyper professionalism or whatever. And when it comes to performers, I was just that kind of jazz is like the best thing in the world to me. But I can't play it.
You can appreciate it for what it is.
I can't play it, you know what I mean? It's kind of
time and a place and all that.
Exactly.
Have you always been a guitar player or a singer first? What would you say was the thing that you kind of got into first? Or what were you listening to when you were younger? That's always an interesting question. You know, when you're formative years, there's stuff going on in the house, but I guess there's other influences in there too, especially with the sound of your voice, Rob.
Well, funnily enough, actually, like I was probably the biggest Phil Collins fan in the world when I was a kid. I remember, I think the first record I ever bought was the soundtrack to Buster, if you remember that one.
Oh yeah, that's the train robber thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And like exactly. Yeah. It was kind of based on the train robbery, but I loved Phil Collins, and obviously Genesis. I became a big fan, but I think one of my earlier kind of musical memories is like my mom always had this tape of Carly Simon on. So like for years I actually thought Carly Simon, for some reason when I was a kid, I always thought Carly Simon was a guy. I don't know whether it was the intonation of her voice or whatever, but it's like even to this day, Carly Simon's voice is probably my favorite of anybody, along with like Annie Lennox as well. And so like I'm the kind of music I always loved was like had very strong vocal singing elements in it. So I guess I developed my own style out of that over the years, or kind of trial and error. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Phil Collins, Carly Simon, Nina Simone, all of this kind of. That's what I like used to really love as a kid. But then obviously your tastes change as you grow up, and I became an obsessed Jeff Buckley fan in my teenager years, and Smashing Pumpkins and all this kind of stuff. And
you got a little bit of everything, like a real kind of melange of all the good stuff then, eh?
Yeah, and then, but then, like, kind of as I got a little bit older, I became like hugely into Tom Waits and stuff. Like, as you know, it's endless, the list of people that you love in music. Like, I mean, the Beatles, things like this. But obviously, I was kind of very much into the more underground scene of music as well when I was kind of initially starting to play music. But in terms of actually playing itself, I mean, when I was a kid, my parents forced me, as they say, to play piano. And I kicked and screamed until they let me give it up. And then later I was giving out to them asking, why did you let me give it up? But yeah, so I was doing up to grade 5 or whatever it was when I was 13, and then get rid of it. And then when I was 16, yeah, I just picked up the guitar and it kind of started from there. Like, I'd never really much interest in becoming the next, like, Jimi Hendrix or something like that, being the technically best guitar player in the world. But, like, from the beginning, I just kind of started writing songs from the very start. It was kind of just more creative side of it that always kind of struck me. But yeah, I mean, guitar, I would say, was the first instrument where I want to be a musician. But then obviously as time went on, I was like, oh, like, piano. Obviously I love piano, but I wish I hadn't given it up at the time. But that's the life of a bratty teenager, you know.
Exactly. We all know best when we're a teenager, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there I was reading some of a couple of reviews and stuff about the new album, and you were talking about some of the, or maybe the reviewer was, I forget, but there was talk about some of the instruments that you've added to this new album. We should say the name of the new album, actually. You could tell us.
Yeah, well, yeah, like the song we were mentioning earlier on, the album's called Plasticine Heart. But yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, I guess kind of how the title came out of it is, I would say, when it comes to lyrics and things like that, I'm quite allegorical, or I guess you could say, but yeah, I'd say the overarching kind of theme of the album is time. I'm getting on a little bit now, and so kind of you become a little bit more reflective when you're into your 30s or late 30s, and so like I guess for me, like Plasticine kind of heart just reflects. I mean, obviously the kind of your attitudes and the way you feel about things changes over time, and so I thought it was kind of a nice metaphor, like Plasticine, something that's malleable and changeable, and so yeah, it kind of stuck. But it's like, I mean, musically it's a very varied album. It's got kind of everything from rock and roll to quiet ballads, which Plasticine Heart, the title track, actually is. But yeah, then the first single, None Other, is kind of electronic mixed with indie rock. So
yeah, I mean, it's great. It's a really nice contrast. As I said, I was listening to some of it again today, and one of the comments on your YouTube page, it said something like, "Oh, great drums," or whatever it was for the None Other song, you know. I could have really, as a drummer, I guess it's the first thing that comes into your head. You've got always listening to those. Actually. It's true. Is there are they real drums? I mean, is it you can let the
yeah. Well, funny enough, so the band that I have now, it's actually made up of 2 members of the old band who I had in the US. But funnily enough, it's kind of the most impractical band you can have, because the bass player lives in Galway in Ireland and the drummer lives in London, Lockie, and so they kind of fly in once in a while for a studio gig or a gig or two, and then I play with an Australian guy, Damien Jingbazzi, on guitar here, and another guy from Berlin who plays pedal steel and keys. And
yeah, because that features in one of the videos, was it Colorado?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's I think the video you're talking about, that's a live kind of.
Yeah, it was a nicely shot video in one of the studios, eh?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but without the bass and drums, that was as a 3-piece.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's nice and atmospheric, and has a real kind of nice, kind of airy feel to it. But you get that feeling of, you know, they just disappeared for a second. We're all good. It's okay. You got me mid-speech as well. No, this is one of the things I was going to ask you about. The kind of visual element, has it always been there with you? I mean, because I found the videos to be really different. I watched the video for Ugly, which as well, I like the kind of narrative to it. You know, it's a really simple, like, the best things are simple, right? In the sense of, why did I not think of that? But, you know, it's really well done, but the idea and the narrative itself is quite simple and quite, you know, it takes you there.
Yeah. I mean, I've always, I guess I've been very, very lucky because, as you know, as a musician, the idea of and prospect of putting together a couple of music videos is the stuff of nightmares, really, just from a logistical perspective and everything else. And even they can be costly as well. So they're always kind of, you have to get kind of creative when you're putting them together. But I've been very lucky that I've known a lot of people who are very eager to kind of take my songs or whatever and kind of run with it. Not to be honest with you, I generally let them, give them carte blanche on the narrative and things like this, because I find myself, whenever I was actually saying this to my partner Catherine, that I find it very hard to come up with video ideas for my own songs. I can do it no problem when I'm listening to other people's music, but just when I listen to my own songs, it's very unobjective or whatever. But I've been very lucky. I mean, there was another video with the old band Senakah called Human Relations. I don't know if you saw that one, but it's a very good friend of mine, Ben Morrison. He's a stand-up comedian based in LA, and he used to be on that show with Ashton Kutcher where he pulled Punk'd, where he pulled practical jokes on celebrities or whatever. Yeah. But he came up with this kind of crazy idea for a video, so we flew him over to Ireland and we got a film crew in and just chased him around Limerick City for a couple of days and put that together. And so, when it comes to videos, obviously, I'm kind of, I get quite detailed when it comes to the editing and stuff, because obviously you want it to reflect kind of well on what you're doing. And luckily for me, it's kind of, I think it's worked out that way, at least with most of the videos that have been done. But yeah, I mean, it's always like a daunting prospect to have to put together videos for singles and things like this.
Well, this is one of the things as well, it never used to be a thing. I don't know, when you first started playing, it probably wasn't. So maybe it was an idea you had or something that you could progress to, but it was more about performance and playing and rehearsing and then moving on to the next thing. And now you have to have all the social media stuff. You have to have a video that goes with it. You have to, and we're talking bands of, not Coldplay or whatever. We're just talking about, normal run-of-the-mill musicians who are making a living from it, or they do it for the love of it, whatever it is. But, it seems to be, you need this to kind of get anywhere, to get a foot in the door, for example.
Yeah, well, that's I guess I don't know if it's a controversial opinion or not, but it's just, I'm obviously, I'm a kind of a dinosaur when it comes to the way things were done in music, because I always feel my eyes glaze over when I have to see TikTok and all this stuff that people say you're supposed to be part of now. But it's obviously the byword these days when you're a musician is content. You'll always have to have content. Right. And it's I'm not a fan of getting in front of the camera, as you might have noticed by our videos as well. And so
you're an international man of mystery, Rob.
Yeah, well, I've never taken a selfie in my life, so that kind of tells you. But but it's kind of this constant need for it. Yeah, I guess the kind of, I don't know, it's not a complaint, but I'm an enormous fan of the album as a format, as an example, and that's kind of dying out to a degree now, because they're saying just release single after single after single, and not as kind of cohesive things. And that, I struggle with that idea, but I try to get involved as much as I can with the musical creative side of the music video or whatever. But updating people on TikTok about what I'm eating for breakfast doesn't. It doesn't even strike a chord with me, and it's not what I'm in music for. I'm in music because it's certainly not for the money, that's for sure, and so it has to be because it's just what I love. I go crazy if I didn't do it, that kind of way, and so it's I think I'm at the happiest place I've been in a long time playing music, because I'm doing it on my own terms now, and not kind of trying to keep people happy or keep a producer happy or management happy or any of this kind of thing. I'm doing it for my own enjoyment more than anything else. And so it's good in that way. If I don't have to have a TikTok, I won't. I won't. But,
I've refrained from TikTok myself.
Yeah, I'll try to tag along on whatever the trend is, as far as it won't drive me up the walls.
I mean, it's the same. I have a similar kind of issue with podcasting and stuff. As I was telling you at the beginning there, I took a couple of weeks off just from producing an episode because I was kind of, I just needed to get away from it for a while. I didn't do any Instagramming or any. Not that I'm a huge influencer or whatever, but I kind of when I have an episode and a guest on, I try to do some clips through the week and I chop things up and put them together on Canva, and I kind of do it in my own way. And it's good to share other people's work, right? Not just from my own point of view, but to show what other people are doing and to get the word out there. And it seems a bit like it's like pushing water uphill a little bit. You're kind of that people would rather watch videos of, like you said, TikTok's 2 hamsters on a wheel or whatever it is, or I don't know, whatever the new trend is. I don't know, but that's just the way it is.
But I mean, podcasting is a great format because it's kind of long form, and so you can actually understand what people are thinking or what their opinions are and kind of what they like to talk about. Whereas, like, I don't know, like Twitter or TikTok videos like 10 seconds long is like you don't exactly get much of an impression of the person you're looking at or listening to.
Aye, it can also be a generational thing as well. I mean, we probably didn't grow up with it, and definitely not the way kids do now, where it's all about the thumbs and scrolling and whatever that other, swiping and all that, and you're just like, okay, cool, all right. So, without sounding like 2 grumpy old men, go on. Sorry, I interrupted.
Exactly. It was like exactly. I remember when I was a teenager or whatever on MTV or Kerrang or whatever it was, and actually like taping a VCR to tape the music videos that I liked and things like this. Kids these days don't know the pain you have to go through to actually record music that you want to listen to.
It's kind of editing the top 40 or, the Friday Night Rock Show on Radio 1 or whatever it was, The good old days. Yeah. Man. But then again, Spotify is one of these things that divides opinion out. Obviously, from a musical musician's point of view, they're completely robbing us. I say us because, I still technically call myself a musician, but they're taking the piss, right? But on the other hand, as a consumer of music, it's a good product.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. I'm mumbling the answer. I feel guilty, but I do think it's a good product, as a consumer.
It's fantastic. It's just I mean, Spotify is what it is. I mean, like the way I kind of think about it is, if it wasn't Spotify, it would be somebody else. I mean, like, streaming like that was always going to come, you know what I mean? And like Pandora was the US version of it or whatever.
I remember that.
Democratization of the internet or whatever. Like, music was always going to go this direction, unfortunately. But I mean, like, as an actual consumer, as you say, I love Spotify because, I mean, you come across music that you haven't heard in years, or you can put together your playlists of music that you really, really love. But yeah, like, I mean, my own like grievances besides the financial side of Spotify is just the way that they compress the music and things like that as well, but that's more a kind of a pedantic kind of detail as a musician.
Well, Neil Young has his thing, right, with I forget the particular format that he's not endorsing it. I think he was part of the creation of it, whatever that format that Neil Young does.
Oh god, I don't know that one actually.
Yeah, me too. I can't remember, but it's a thing. I'll let you go Google it. Neil Young makes MP3 or whatever it is, you'll find it there.
Yeah, like, but I mean, as well as it kind of like, that's why even though it's financially idiotic in some ways, but maybe not over time. But like, I mean, I was insisting on getting a vinyl cut of the album because, I mean, just as a format, I love listening to them, more than anything else. It's kind of maybe it's just the way I listen to it. I mean, an MP3 does not sound the same as vinyl through good speakers, regardless of what anybody says.
Well, it's good to see that vinyl's coming back. I read recently that vinyl sold more than compact discs, whatever it was last year, probably, or the year before.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the funny thing is even when you put together a record or something, now you still kind of have to get CDs run off because a lot of radio stations insist on it. But I mean, I think I'm the only person I know who actually has a CD player, and that's in my car because it was built into it. But I mean, most people don't have something to play.
No, they just look at you with a blank stare. They're like, well, how and why? You know, it's like, you know.
Yeah, it's like, why did you get these like coffee coasters duplicated of your album?
What is it? Yeah, you know. Oh man, yeah, we're sounding like a couple of kind of grumpy old men here, so let's swiftly move on. What about some plans for the rest of the year then, to promote the album? How are things going? Maybe you can tell us when the album was recorded, produced, how it was put together, and some plans you've got for it.
Yeah, well, like it was released officially on the kind of April 23rd, but we kind of made it over the space of about a year and a half. Funnily enough, it's a great spot. So the album was recorded on a boat. The whole thing was recorded on a boat in Treptower Park here in Berlin. There's a kind of a studio boat moored on the river along at the park, and it was a fantastic experience to record there because we'd record in the studio, which is kind of under the deck or whatever, and then during breaks you could come up and just watch people in the park or like have a barbecue or whatever you wanted. So it was very, very relaxing kind of experience to record in. But if a big boat went by, then Lockie would be drumming the wave would move him over and like he misses a beat or whatever. But it was a hell of an experience, and but we had a lot of freedom in there to kind of spend a bit of time and just try different things. So I really loved that, and so I mean, the plan is just keep kind of pushing it for the next couple of months, and then in July I start recording a new album in Hansa Studios here in Berlin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's where Bowie did the Berlin 3.
I think you two recorded there as well.
Baby, Baby was recorded there as well. So luckily the company signed with for publishing, they own Hansa Studios, and so I'm going in there to start the new record, which I can't wait.
Obviously. Yeah, fantastic,
Busily trying to finish the writing for it, so it's kind of
you get the heavy lifting to do first, there.
Exactly. Well, the pandemic being the way it is, actually, funnily enough, because trying to work it out with schedules and everything. Funnily enough, the drummer is starting to put down the drum tracks in London next week, and so we might have the drums done before we actually go into Hansa, but we'll just have to see. But yeah, it's kind of the nature of trying to plan anything when random lockdowns come in and ruin everything last minute. But yeah, like obviously I want to release another single from the current album first and see how that goes. But I mean, the response has been really, really nice. German radio seems to like it, which is always a nice thing. And
well, I actually heard your interview. I listened to your interview with, and forgive me for forgetting the name. Was it Radio 1 or Beat 1?
Oh yeah,
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was like Radio 1 and Deutschland Funk Kultur and like a couple of one MDR and a few other ones. But I mean, it's really nice because it's kind of coming from Ireland, which is like obviously a tiny country of 4.5 million people or whatever. It's like the spectrum of people possibly listening in Germany is manifestly bigger, you know. So yeah, it's very nice. But like obviously, I'd love to be able to go back to Ireland and tour as well, or properly promote it over. And obviously, I mean, I'm releasing the album in the middle of a pandemic when you can't gig at all, so it's kind of like a downer in many regards, but at the same time, I didn't want to hold on to it for too long. So I said, listen, I'll have it. I'm sitting on it for a while now, so I put it out into the world because it's my first album of my own, and so at least it's kind of like a stepping block to the next kind of thing, which luckily I'll be doing soon. So yeah, I mean, I think the next album will sound quite different, but I'm excited about it. I think that'll take up much of the headspace for the next 6 months anyway.
Right. I mean, are you one of these writers that has a lot of stuff, like you take a notebook with you kind of thing, you know, when you write things down, or are you a bit more spontaneous that you can churn out some stuff quite quickly or sporadically even?
I wish I was like that. I kind of... I mean, I've got so many unfinished songs. I mean, you could write a Bible, like an encyclopedia of them, but it's kind of...
Oh, you're keeping this for the memoirs, though. That's what it is. When you release the memoirs, then you can put out the great unreleased album as well. You know, go with it.
Yeah, or once I'm dead, and then like somebody might listen to them. But yeah, it's kind of like I have lots of kind of material, but yeah. I'm kind of analytical when it comes to kind of songwriting. I sit down and I kind of obsess over it to to a point where I think it's terrible, and then I leave it for a couple of weeks and come back to it. But yeah, like, I mean, there's been a few occasions where I've written songs in the space of a couple of minutes or an hour or something like that, but they're rare enough. I think I'm more of a workhorse when it comes to kind of songwriting. I just sit down and said, I'm going to write this, finish the song now, and that's what I do. It's less of the kind of magical kind of
it comes to you in a moment, you know. Yeah,
like I'm a bard sitting under an apple tree or something like that in the sunshine, like, yeah, with great ideas coming to me. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way for me that often, but yeah, obviously you walk around and you come up with these ideas, and then when you get home you sit down and churn them out if you can. But yeah, I guess I'm not a romantic songwriter in that way.
It takes all sorts, eh? As you were saying about the Plasticine Heart album, though, that it's quite diverse musically, or at least you have a lot of different instrumentation or styles and genres and so on. Is this also something that you think about when you're putting an album together or a collection of songs together? What works with what, or is it a case of experimentation?
No, well, to be honest, but that's definitely something that is on purpose for me. And like, to be honest with you, it's kind of worked like against me over the years as a musician, I would say, because even when I had the band Senakah, I mean, the albums that we put together, like, I mean, they were so diverse that like it was kind of hard to actually pigeonhole what the hell we were in terms of style or this, that, and the other. But like, I think over the years I've gotten a little bit better at kind of writing in different styles, but having to have a single cohesive sound. Because to be honest with you, there's one thing that I hate more than anything else in music, and that's like listening to an album where the entire thing is 10 songs of the same song over and over again. It drives me crazy. It's just as a listener, I don't like it. And so it's something, and I find it more interesting for myself to try and write songs in different styles, just as a challenge, if nothing else. But it's kind of, yeah, I think it's come more from like listening to albums over the years, where like my favorite ones are the ones whereby it covers a wide spectrum of sounds, not so much styles, but just sounds. You know what I mean? And so that's something that's definitely a conscious thing for me. But like, I mean, it's more true. Just I like to listen. If I want to listen back to my own stuff, I want to at least be interested by it, not bored. So I mean, if I'm bored by it, I'm sure other people will be as well. So I try to avoid it at least.
What kind of things are you planning for the new album then, stylistically? Anything new? I mean, are you going to surprise us with some like really new sounds, or can you give anything away?
I think it'll be a little bit more maybe guitar driven, possibly. I think just the fact that like with the studio, like Hansa, it's going to be, you have the ability to go in there and I mean, you can put down like just with the gear that's in there, just put down the take and it'll sound, you'll not need to like put too many bells and whistles over it. Whereas if you're working kind of with a space that's not as kind of refined or whatever, you have to put a little bit more work into getting it to sound the exact way you want to get it to sound. To be honest with you, I don't have much experience in like really lovely studios or fancy stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And so we'll have to see kind of when we get in there. But I have in my head how I want it to sound, but whether it'll sound like that in the end is a different thing. You know, like I'm very lucky because the guys I play with, they're like what's the old adage? I mean, you should be the worst member of your own band. Like, you know what I mean? And I think I can certainly testify to that. I'm definitely the worst musician in my own band, but that's the way I want it, you know. And so yeah, like I'm very much for listening to what the ideas of the other guys and kind of what their ideas are, because like, more often than not, their ideas are better than mine. So I mean, I'm definitely a very collaborative musician in that respect, you know. And so yeah, I mean, when we really get down to rehearse and kind of go through the stuff, we've started a bit already, but yeah, I think like I'd like to tell you exactly how it'll sound now, but I'm not too sure. But I like that about
all
it as well.
All in good time, there, dude.
All in good time. Yeah, I'll definitely send you the like, and as soon as I have something to show, I'll send it to you.
Fantastic. I'll keep you to that. What about like production wise? Then in the past, you worked, you did it together with your band, or you've always worked side by side with someone else?
Well, it's been kind of different. I mean, like with Senakah, when we did our the second album, when we came back from the US, we were very lucky in that we ended up Noel Hogan, the guitar player from the Cranberries. He at that time he was producing a lot of music, and so he produced that album with us. And so like that was an incredible experience, kind of going in and working with somebody who's obviously in the Cranberries and is used to kind of the upper end of the scale in terms of the way things should be done. And so, I mean, that was a huge learning experience for me, and like working closely with him was kind of, because like, as you know yourself, like with music, as with everything else, you're constantly learning. And like when we were younger, or when we were first a band, I mean, we were a garage band who probably sounded terrible, but we thought we sounded great. And then it's only...
That's the rules, man.
That's the rules, yeah. And so only after like blood, sweat and tears of kind of driving yourself into the ground and bashing your head off the wall for a while, you start to sound like you think you sound, you know what I mean? And so, that was great, because like Noel would he took us and he went, okay, let's change this and make this sound a little bit better. And I mean, that helped a lot, just in terms of like formulating my own way of looking at music as well, and recording as well, because I'm not. I'm more of a technical Luddite than anything else, and so having somebody else to put all the bells and whistles on kind of helps me, you know.
The last album, I mean, Plasticine Heart was produced by. Sorry.
It was actually So like, but this album, Plasticine Heart, I mean that was kind of produced like equally between myself, Damien, the guitar player, and Yusuf, who's also in the band, because we just kind of had an idea as how we wanted to put it together. And Damien is a wonderful engineer by trade, so he's like, I mean, we just kind of put it together ourselves, not with any kind of outside producer or anything like that. And I think, I mean, that's a good thing in many respects. Having a kind of a producer from an outside perspective kind of helps a lot as well, because a lot of the kind of extra work that we put in probably might have not been necessary if you had somebody kind of like with, say, Noel's experience or like another producer. But at the same time, the album wouldn't sound the same, and perhaps I wouldn't like it as much, or other people mightn't like it as much. You never know, because like obviously, like, so if you have a producer, they might change the aspects of a song that you like. You know, that can happen as well. And so we kind of produced it ourselves this time more, and whether you like it or not, that's the way it is.
There you go. And that sounds great. I mean, it's a really well put together. From a musical point of view, as we were saying earlier, about a visual point of view, and it sounds really good.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. I'm very happy with the way the album came out. It was a labour of love, and so hopefully there's a lot more of that to come. You know,
as you were saying earlier, a bit of blood, sweat, and tears, and elbow grease, and all that, and pulling the hair out and whatnot, and kind of maybe a tantrum here or there. But then you go, you get it finished, and it's all good. Eh? Well, where can we find you, Rob? Where can we find you on social media?
Oh yeah, so kind of on the typical ones like the Facebook, Instagrams.com, it's always .com/Robert John Hope, or even like I have a website, robertjohnhope.com, where you can find everything from there as well. But I mean, in Germany you can buy the vinyl at any of the main kind of online distributors. But I mean, you can find me on Apple Music or Spotify's and all of these things as well. But I mean, you can find everything from robertjohnhope.com. On YouTube as well, you'll find me up there.
Are you good for a top 5? Did you have a look at those questions?
Yes, I saw them briefly.
I've got them all in my memory bank anyway. If you don't need to worry about them, I just give you some questions.
Yeah, fire ahead.
We just kind of a wee bit of fun at the end of the podcast, you know. Who doesn't like lists, you know?
Of course.
Short ones are better, of course, but you know.
Exactly.
How about a guilty pleasure? Someone you might be surprised to find on your playlist. Obviously, you wouldn't be surprised because it's on your playlist, but I might be.
Funnily enough, is kind of one. I guess it's kind of cheesy because every German loves it, but you know, was it Peter Schilling? Do you know, like say Major Tom? I mean, that for me, that's an incredible song, but it's kind of like this cheesy kind of thing that all Germans adore. And if you're in holidays and they have their towels out before you, and that's the music they have. Start going down in Spain. But I mean, I think that's an incredible song. There's so much. Like as I said earlier on, maybe some of the Phil Collins stuff might be cheesy, but I don't think so. I love it. To be honest with you, if it's a good song, I don't care who does it. Like if it's Justin Bieber or whoever, I really don't mind. Like I don't go in much for being embarrassed by who I like. You know.
I think that's a lot. In the past, I've had. Or quite recently, we talked with some guests about Harry Styles and Billie Eilish, and yeah, there's been some new ones that I wouldn't particularly listen to, but then I've went and listened to them. Maybe I've heard it just in passing, but I've went and listened to them on the YouTube or whatever, and I'm like, those are not bad songs, you know. I just don't tell anyone though, you know.
Well, the thing, I think the thing with them is like with Billie Eilish or Styles and like all these, like I mean, they're there for a reason. It's not as if they don't have any talent. You know what I mean? So just because it's popular doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. You know?
Yeah, I find her to be quite intense though for someone so young. You know, she does seem a bit troubled, maybe not the right word, but she seems very angst-ridden. Okay, you can take angst-ridden in the German way or the English way, whatever way you prefer. You know, but.
Yeah. But even with, say, Taylor Swift, kind of some of the recent stuff that she's done that's more very much kind of Nashville recording kind of.
But she did that acoustic. Was that an acoustic album she did fairly recently? Yeah, I mean, I think it won all the Grammys, didn't it? Right.
Well, of course, it's either her or Beyonce.
Right, it's a stitch up, man. Tell us, Rob, who should we be listening to then? Give us some recommendations.
Like kind of like acts that are around currently.
Whatever you like.
Yeah, like I mean, Big Thief are fantastic. I don't know if you've come across them yet, but they're really, really excellent. I would recommend anybody gets into them. And there's another group from Denver where I used to live called Tennis. I really, really like them as well. They're a duo. A couple of friends of mine here in Berlin, a duo from Ireland called Rufus Coates and Jess Smith. It's kind of dark gothic folk music, but it's really, really brilliant. But, I mean, like the list is endless. You know, you could kind of keep going. I mean, there's Mick Flannery. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a musician from Ireland, like absolutely outstanding songwriter. You've probably heard of her before, but Lisa Hannigan as well. Mm-hmm. Has to be one of my favorite artists on earth. I would say she's truly amazing. But yeah, perhaps like some of your listeners don't know some of them, but I'd really recommend that they check them out.
Excellent. I'll have a listen to some of that myself. Tell us your go-to karaoke song.
Oh God. Well, funnily enough, like, and it wasn't actually by choice, but the few times over the years that I've actually done karaoke, for some reason, I always seem to end up singing Layla.
The long version of the short version, you know, it's...
Well, like, the long version is good because I don't have to sing over the last 5 minutes of it.
I see, yeah, there you go. There's method in my madness here, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess, I don't know, I don't really have any, like, maybe a Frank Sinatra song here or there, but... Yeah, I suppose Layla is a good one because it's the mix of the rock and the melodic, I guess, you know, I don't know.
What's quite funny, you mentioned Frank Sinatra there. I remember, oh God, it was years ago being on holiday in Spain or Tenerife or somewhere like that, and I remember being in a bar somewhere and the karaoke was on and this guy was singing That's Life, or was it Mac the Knife? It was either That's Life or Mac the Knife, one or the other. I think these songs are interchangeable anyway at some point in the evening after a few drinks, right? So
exactly.
But
yeah.
I just remember looking at the lyrics. I think it was Mac the Knife, and I'm just like, man, these are some really far out lyrics. You know, they're just like completely. Yeah. I mean, just mad. Well, there you go.
Yeah, completely. Well, yeah, even like kind of you look more into the Frank Sinatra thing. I mean, he was incredible. And sorry, what's the name of the producer? Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
He was his big band kind of arranger. I mean, I mean, all of these guys do like the stories behind all of them, you know. But I love Frank Sinatra stuff.
Yeah,
can't sing it, but
me too. Likewise, time and a place and all that. A couple of drinks, you're good to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell us someone you don't get, Rob. You know, maybe you think they're overrated or it just doesn't register with you, but everyone else thinks they're like the bee's knees. You know.
Oh, I don't know. That's actually quite a difficult one.
I'll give you a little. I'll give you a gentle push then. So right, I just don't get Queen. I kind of okay. A couple of songs are all right, but as a overall thing, yeah, I'm done. You know, that's it. It's kind of I don't know why, because all the kind of separate parts of it work, like, you know, musically and all that, but together I'm just like, yeah, okay, I turn it off. You know, I just can't be doing. I like Brian May, you know, and all the.
Yeah, like I know, I kind of understand that as well, because like I mean, I personally I love Queen, but like I mean,
sorry man, it's kind of one of those things, eh? You know, it's just
not at all. No, but it's kind of like I think kind of the reason for that is because they are like a kind of a bunch of separate elements come together or something like that, and so yeah. I mean, some of their stuff I don't get either, to be honest. But yeah, like
I mean, if I was at a house party and it was on, I wouldn't complain. Let's put it that way. I mean, I'm not like, okay, that's it, we're going home, right? You know, I don't really get the whole furore around it and all that kind of stuff. I'm just a bit like the Live Aid concert aside, I could take it or leave it. I remember that concert well, and actually, that's really what brought them back into the front pages and all that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is music is all opinion, but it's actually like funnily enough, the one band I was thinking of is Modest Mouse.
Oh yeah.
I really loved them for a while, and then I saw them live, and it was the most disappointing gig I've ever been to in my life. And but then from then on, it's just I couldn't understand them. Everybody loved them after that, but I couldn't latch onto it for some reason.
Their big song was that "Float On." If I remember
Float On,
right. And it's just like basically the same three chords over and over and over again, because I did try it in a covers band, and we played it maybe twice in the rehearsal room, and then we're like, nah, it's kind of boring, right? So it doesn't really go. It's a good song. It sounds great on the radio and all that, but it's kind of repetitive to play.
It's this kind of element of where they're kind of trying to do something along the kind of the crazy elements of Tom Waits, but without being able to pull it off. Like this, you know? I mean, like, listen, it's like everything. I like some aspects of most acts, but then not other aspects of it. But yeah, it's kind of That's a tough question, I must say.
Oh, right. An eclectic choice though. Queen and Modest Mouse with a bit of something in your tune. All right. Cool. Last question then, Rob. What favourite venue since reading your bio and spending the last hour talking? So you've played many gigs in many different venues. What are some that stand out for you as a musician, or gigs you've actually seen people play at?
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I suppose to start with places I've played. I mean, yeah, there are tons of, the ones I was like, I mean, 100 Club in London, played there a couple of times, and I loved it every single time. It's a vibrant place, amazing. Then the Whisky A Go Go as well, like legendary spot. And then, I mean, the Boulder Theatre, because I kind of lived in Colorado, and getting to play that place was really, it's a beautiful venue. But I suppose I always go back to my favourite place to play ever was Dolan's Warehouse in Limerick City. It's a beautiful venue, but it's just kind of it's like a big box, and it sounds amazing, and it's just it's because I have so many memories of the place. I guess that's why I kind of love it the most, you know. But in terms of like say other acts I've seen, like venues specifically, I mean, I've been lucky enough. I saw Radiohead and Wilco at Red Rocks in Denver. If you know that venue,
yeah, that's a great venue. I mean, it's the kind of iconic if you've ever seen Under a Blood Red Sky, right? That's really where I know it from, and I've seen several gigs from there, not in person, but yeah, it's fantastic. It's that kind of open auditorium look.
Yeah, with the kind of it's a natural auditorium made out of the kind of sandstone or whatever.
It looks fantastic. And of course the U2 one's in the rain, which makes it look even more iconic. And if you know the story behind, that was their kind of make or break concert, because they were filming it and all that kind of stuff, and they weren't going to play it in the rain and all that, and then they played it in the rain, and now they're rich and famous and all that stuff. The rest is history.
Exactly. And the thing most people don't realise as well, because I lived in Denver, which is right beside it, but you can actually go up there and play on the stage if you just arrive in the afternoon, bring up an amp and just start playing off the stage. But I mean, for sheer kind of epicness, I can't think of any venue I've been to that matches that, to be fair, you know. It
is quite spectacular. I mean, I can imagine quite a nice a nice setup as well, for when the sun's setting and all that kind of stuff. It looks the part as well.
Exactly, because you can see this downtown Denver right behind it in the background as well. So it's kind of, it's hard to beat that one, to be fair.
How about Berlin? For my sins, I haven't actually been to Berlin yet. Last year, the year 2020/21 doesn't really count on my calendar anymore, other than making podcasts, which is, I don't mean that in a bad way. But for traveling and whatnot, I haven't been. It's definitely on my my list of things to do in Germany.
Berlin has spectacular venues as well, like the Castle House, which is beside where I live here. If you have a chance to see a gig there, I really recommend that as well. And Columbia Halle, it's stuffed with great venues, But you should pop up to Berlin and we'll go for a beer and I'll bring you some music whenever it's possible again.
Right, that sounds like a plan, yeah. Speaking of that, have you had your dates about vaccinations or anything like that? Are you on the road to that?
Not yet, but I'm hoping.
Me too.
Yeah, it's not very controversial for me. As soon as I have it, let them stick it in me. I don't mind. Let's
get it on, right? We can get back to some kind of normalcy. Rob, it's been an absolute blast for the last hour or so. Good luck with everything going forward, and I hope everything works well with the new album, and I'll definitely be playing it in the next few weeks on the podcast and all my kind of Instagram pages and all that. And because it's a real treat.
Oh, well, I really appreciate you asking me on. It's kind of nice to be asked these questions, A little bit more fun than usual, so I appreciate that.
All right, good. That's for the win. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this out, not this weekend, but the following weekend. I'm recording on Friday night. There's a guy putting together this Dylan gig, like online, and there's something like 15 different countries and 25 different musicians, and he's organised it, this German guy. So, but the gig's on Monday, so we're going to record it on Friday. And I'll probably edit it and put it together and get it out maybe Saturday night or for Sunday morning, and then at least people have got a day and a half to listen to it, or
stuff. That's for the 80th birthday, I guess.
It is, yeah. I don't know when. I think his birthday's the 24th, maybe. I have no idea, but the gig's on Monday, so we're going to do it on Friday night, and I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Good stuff. Yeah. All right then.
I don't know if anyone's going to play the Hurricane or anything from that new album with the 25-minute John F. Kennedy song, right? But that could be a very long gig,
Well, actually, funny enough, I did a really nice gig in that place I was telling you about before, the Boulder Theatre. There's a friend of mine who got around the world doing on Boston nights and also the Last Waltz kind of nights.
Great.
He gave me. I had to do Visions of Johanna one time, and I didn't have the lyrics in front of me, so I had to spend about 2 weeks learning the goddamn lyrics. It was about 11 verses or something. It was fun.
And there lies Bob Dylan in a nutshell, right? It's kind of, and have you ever played the song since?
I did a couple of times, but geez, I'd have to have the lyrics in front of me again. It's just, I don't have a very good memory, even for my own lyrics, to be honest. So.
I don't know. You remember the Traveling Wilburys song? Years ago, I was in a band and we did Tweeter and the Monkey Man, which is written by Bob Dylan, and it has about 10 verses as well. So you got to cut out, it's a great story, right? But you got to cut out more than half of it anyway. So
exactly, yeah.
Rob, all the best. It was great catching up with you, and good luck with everything, mate. And hopefully, if I'm in Berlin, whenever it is, we catch up and get a cheeky pint or two. That would be nice.
Exactly. There's a couple of nice beer gardens around the corner here, so I can bring you in and listen to some music. All right.
All the best, Rob. I'll be in touch, and take care, mate.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.